The train doors slid open, and Kidow stepped onto the platform. He scanned the Kyoto station, his tail twitching, before heading straight for the Fushimi Inari shrine. The path was lined with stone fox statues, each carved with a stoic, unmoving stare. Kidow saw his chance. He leaped onto an empty pedestal, tucked his paws beneath his chest, and locked every muscle in place. He was a statue. He was part of the history. Tourists drifted by, cameras clicking, voices murmuring about how lifelike the new exhibit looked. Kidow held his breath, eyes fixed on the horizon. Then, a pigeon landed directly on his head. Sharp claws dug into his ears. Kidow shattered the illusion. He hissed, launched himself into the air, and scrambled across the rows of wooden prayer tablets. The rack groaned and tipped, sending hundreds of wooden placards clattering across the stone floor in a deafening cascade. Kidow scrambled over the wreckage, claws skidding on the polished ground. His wife lunged, snagging his scruff just as the sound of approaching footsteps echoed from the shrine office. She dragged him away, moving quickly toward the shade of the path before the keepers could turn the corner. They found refuge in a quiet tea house, sliding across the tatami mats toward a corner table. The air was thick with the scent of whisked leaves. A waiter set a steaming bowl of vibrant, frothy matcha down, the liquid swirling in the low light. Kidow leaned over, nose twitching as he caught the steam. He mistook the thick green liquid for a shallow water bowl. Without hesitation, he plunged his face into the center. The heat caught him off guard. He jerked back, pulling his head out with a wet slap. Eyes wide and blinking against the sticky green foam, he let out a sharp, startled yowl and scrambled for traction on the polished wood. His paws slid, turning his escape into a frantic, sliding dash toward the wall. He hit a heavy ceramic vase with his shoulder. The impact sent the vessel tipping. It crashed to the floor, splashing tea and water across the floorboards and soaking the nearby patron. Kidow shook his head, spraying green droplets across the room. His wife lunged forward, grabbing a napkin from the table to scrub at his ears. She did not wait for the waiter to return. She hooked a paw around his neck and shoved him firmly toward the exit. They retreated into the open air of a quiet park, the manicured grass offering a reprieve from the noise of the city. Kidow trotted ahead, his tail held high, until he spotted a group of deer grazing near the fence line. He stopped dead. He puffed out his chest, arched his back until his fur stood on end, and let out a high-pitched, warbling meow meant to sound like a predator. The deer did not retreat. Instead, the largest one lifted its head, ears swiveling toward the sound, and stepped closer. Kidow held his ground for exactly 2 seconds before the deer stretched its neck out and pressed its wet nose against his tail. The sensation of the cold, rough snout sent a jolt of panic through him. He did not run away. He launched himself upward. With a frantic scramble of claws, he vaulted onto his wife's back, clinging to her fur like a heavy, panicked backpack. She stumbled under the sudden weight, digging her claws into the dirt to stay upright. The deer blinked, let out a soft huff of air, and turned away, completely disinterested in the frantic ball of energy on the pathway. They stood there for a moment in the silence of the park, the deer slowly walking toward the trees, while Kidow remained anchored to his wife's shoulder, eyes wide and ears flattened. Daylight faded, casting long shadows across the Kamo River. The couple settled onto a wooden bench, watching the city lights begin to reflect on the water. A single firefly drifted past, its glow pulsing in the cooling air. Kidow fixed his gaze on the light, his pupils widening. He crouched low, wiggling his haunches, and launched himself into the air to snag the glowing insect. He missed, his momentum carrying him too far forward. He clawed at the air, hit the slick embankment, and tumbled backward with a splash. The cold water swallowed him instantly. He surfaced, eyes wide and ears slicked back, paws thrashing against the current. He scrambled toward the muddy ledge, his claws digging into the wet earth. With a final, desperate heave, he hauled himself up onto the stone path. He stood there, a sodden mess, shaking his body with such force that droplets sprayed in every direction. He sat down hard, his frame trembling as the evening breeze hit his wet fur. He looked toward the river, then back at his wife, his bravado from the day entirely washed away. He let out a low, chattering sound. his teeth clicking together as the chill set in. The frantic energy of the afternoon finally began to ebb, replaced by the heavy, steady pulse of the river flowing toward the city. The dampness clung to his fur, but the sharp bite of the air began to soften. His wife stepped close, pressing her side against his, and wrapped her tail firmly around his shoulders. The movement was rhythmic and deliberate, a steady anchor against the cold. She produced a single piece of dried fish from where she had tucked it away, nudging it toward him. They ate in silence, the frantic pace of the afternoon dissolving into the quiet hum of the city. Beyond them, paper lanterns flickered to life along the riverbank, casting long, wavering paths of amber light across the dark water. The chaos of the day felt like a distant memory, replaced by the slow, rhythmic flow of the current. They moved away from the water, stepping over the smooth stones toward the dark silhouette of a cherry tree standing sentinel in the grass. The ground beneath the branches was soft with fallen leaves. Kidow circled twice, kneading the earth with his paws, before collapsing into a tight ball. His wife curled around him, her breathing matching his own. Above, the clouds parted, and the moon began to climb, bathing the park in a pale, silver glow. They closed their eyes, the city noise fading into a gentle, steady peace.